Aloha, everybody. Hi. Just trying to spice things up a little bit here. Since I'm not doing it with the start of the class, I want you to just join me in Shavasana or the corpse pose and focus on your breath. And if this is your first class with me, I like to start with that awareness of the breath because it's the basis for everything. If we're talking of Hatha Yoga, whether we're practicing our asanas fast or slow, whether we're holding for a very long time or we're really, really quick, whether we're maybe doing a Kundalini Kriya or we're really only focusing on pranayama, we want to be aware of the breath. We want to start by knowing what the breath is up to before we do anything else, so that we know what's going on in the body and what the breath can tell us as well about the state of mind that we're in currently. So if you're stressed at the moment, the breath is going to reflect that. If you've been rushing back home in the rain or something like that, the breath is going to reflect that as well. So just listening to the breath for a little bit longer, essentially so that we know where we're picking ourselves up from. Physical body as well, but our mind too. Then we stretch the arms up over the head, or we bring them just next to the head, and we drop our knees to the left side. Feet can be apart so that you feel that in the right side of the body. Going down into a nice little stretch into the right hip. And observe your breath here too. It'll be much more noticeable now in the right side, probably your back as well. And no matter what happens in the whole of the class, I want you to stay aware of the breath. And remember that pranic response as you change sides, the response of the breath to the different postures and movements that we go into. It's normal for the breath to change when we move, but if we're focusing on asana practice, if we're focusing on staying in a posture for a long time, then the idea is that we're letting the breath come back to its natural baseline state. Because that way we can ensure that we stay comfortable where we are. Hug the knees in towards you, and hopefully we've held for long enough here in Shavasana, just observing the breath, to arrive at that calm breath, even if we were rushing here. Rock from side to side. Now, hands towards the feet. You could go to the tops of the feet and press the feet together. Press the knees out and the feet down as well. So not happy baby. Or you could keep the feet apart a little bit as well, and the hands can be on the shins or ankles. Just a gentle stretch into the hips and inner thighs. Also take care to keep your neck and your shoulders relaxed. Sometimes we instinctively reach further in order to deepen, and then we're not really that comfortable anymore. So always think of the whole body and how it feels here. Right knee over the left, and we pull the knees gently in. An option would be to slide the hands further down towards the feet, but that gets to a point where it becomes quite deep. So for an initial stretch here and that opposite stretch into the hip, it's okay to maybe take things a little bit easier and keep the hands just on the knees. So as long as they're on top of each other, and then left knee on top of the right. And same thing here. Hands can always slide further, you can always deepen. And if this was the end of the class and we would want to go even further, even deeper, we could hold on to the feet and raise them and pull them in. But for now, just a little stretch is going to go a long way. And we release. And bring the right knee on top of the left again to take ourselves into a twist. So just dropping the knees to the left side and turning the head to the right. And if you do lots of my classes, you know that I like this position of the arms, just kind of gently bending the arms and having them next to the ears. More traditionally, I would say in Margadasana, the arms go to the sides into that T-shaped position. And you sort of walk the fingertips away from you to the right and left side. But there's no right or wrong. Left knee over the right, we change sides. And you could, as I'm doing, bring the right hand onto your left knee to gently add some weight. It doesn't mean that you're actively pressing down. Or you could bring your hands, as I said, where I'm having them, onto your stomach, your side, your rib cage, just to feel that breath, feel the movement of the breath. And slowly come back into the middle of the mat. And if you feel like you want to feel a bit more release in your back, then you could send the feet towards the back, maybe bringing the hands a little bit further up towards the feet, but just hugging the knees in Pavan Muktasana is completely fine as well. So really whatever you feel you want to do here. I think when I was recording this class a couple of days ago, I had just the night before done a very, very intense class with lots of back bends. And I think that's why I just needed a little bit more release here. Come into that, well, I think it's called dead bug position in English. So just arms and legs up, get some movement into your fingers and toes, into your wrists and ankles. And obviously with that into the backs of the legs as well. And then the arms to the back, and let your feet come down. Knees high, feet about hip distance, maybe further apart, and then the arms come next to you, next to your body, palms down. And we're going to inhale and then exhale, push your hips up. Inhale, drop your hips, and maybe arch the back a little bit, and exhale, push your hips up. So don't go very far here, just drop down, and on the inhale still, arch the back, again not too much, and exhale, push your hips up. So find your own little rhythm here of inhaling and exhaling. As always, if you're comfortable with it and you're not pregnant and have no blood pressure issues, no heart condition, then holding the breath is fine as well. Every time you go up, go a little bit higher, and then the next time you come up, stay, walk the fingertips a little bit further forwards. In one variation of Setu Bandhasana, actually, we're bringing the hands around the ankles. I can just see that this looks like I'm going quite high. I mean, I am going quite high. There's obviously no need to do that. It's probably all the back bends I did the night before. So keep it simple, keep it gentle. We're only starting off. And just feel relaxation here in your neck and in your jaw. Don't let yourself tense up anywhere. And just breathe. Notice maybe how the whole posture can change very dramatically in the way that you're feeling it, if you're squeezing the glutes and if you're not. And then hips stay high as we gently move the hips from side to side, slowly coming down. Let the knees move with you, wavy motion. And then we push up and drop the left hip to the right side, push up again and drop the right hip to the left side. Push up and down to the right side, up again, and down to the left side. So always opposite hip going to that opposite side. Arms again might not touch the ground as we slowly release, and then the arms go around the legs again, and from here all the way to the back and into Halasana or Karnapirasana. So lots of different options here. And if you want to do what I did earlier, where you just go a little bit further towards the back but not as far, that's completely fine as well. As I'm never hesitant to say, we all have different bodies, so it's more about the experience of feeling what's going on in the pose than it is about how the pose looks. One option is to interlock the hands here and then slowly rock up to balance on your tailbone and send your arms to the front. Palms open, we slide the shoulders down, so very consciously creating space here between the shoulders, the neck, the head, the knees. The knees? No, the ears. I should stop talking, shouldn't I? You could close your eyes, so completely optional here. I want you to try and close the eyes, and if that's in any way distracting, open them again. You could also straighten the legs all the way, and that's not necessarily harder for everyone. So we can always try out different things and see if we want to challenge ourselves in a posture. It may not necessarily just be physically challenging. Sometimes our body is so used to doing one thing that's hard. We slowly come down into a low boat, hands to the heart center. We raise the head, looking towards the ceiling if the eyes are open. Otherwise, just making sure that the neck here is comfortable, that the chin is no longer on the chest, and that you're not straining the neck. And then coming back up on an inhale. As we exhale, we bring the right hand behind us and twist the torso to the right so that the left arm is on the outside of the right leg. Inhale, back to the front, and exhale, opening up to the other side. Inhaling back to the front. Maybe this time as we exhale and open up to the right, the legs can be straight, the right arm can be off the ground. No need for that at all. So you can do exactly what you did before. If it gets a bit tiring, you could, of course, also bring the toes to the ground. Release and come up and over to the other side. If you're looking to the back, that may help the posture of the twist. But it also needs to be comfortable for your neck and make sure you're still stable. And back up. You bring the hands to the heart center and cross the legs. And I'm going to face you. Good. We keep the hands together. Roll the shoulders to the back as the fingertips come down. And if you feel that you want to raise your wrists a little bit, you can do that. If you want to feel just a little bit more of a stretch there, you can do that. Drop your left ear to the left shoulder without any strain. Just let the head get heavy. And drop your head to the right side. If anything gets too uncomfortable in the wrists, or if you feel the shoulders are creeping upwards, just check that everything is okay and change whatever needs to change. Good, release. Shake off the hands if you need to. Reach the arms to the front and then bring them to the back of the head. You're rounding the back, chin to chest, and then let that head go over from one side to the other, as if you were guiding the chin from one side to the other. Torso moves a bit as well, and then we drop all the way down. Elbows towards your hips and all the way up from here. And we gently, keeping the hands at the back of the head, draw half circles or maybe even full circles. Every time we've done one half circle or full circle, we change direction. Could also be that you're comfortable with full circles, but not if you're making them super big. So keep them small if you need to. Right hand down, left arm over to the right side. Palm opens to the ceiling. We might sink a little bit into that supporting arm. And over to the other side, reaching nice and far away, bending the left arm if we want to, and breathing into the right side. And we come back up. Inhale, raise your arms and look up. Fingertips together if you want. Exhale, bring the fingertips down onto the ground. Drop your head. Inhaling, raising the arms. Exhaling, bringing the fingertips down onto the ground. So the head mimics the movement of the hands. Keep yourself soft and relaxed. Don't apply too much pressure. And then arms stay high and we roll into the shoulders. It's a little bit harder to do that when you keep the arms long. So I want you to try and keep the arms long. Not for long. Now push your elbows down. We're creating that classic W shape and still rolling into the shoulders, but now also with the help of the elbows and the hands. And then inhale, raise the arms. Exhale, fold forwards, fingertips on the ground to the sides here. Breathe in, left arm goes up and we look up. I'm feeling a good stretch into that left side. And then we change sides. Right arm high. Make sure you're comfortable looking up. And then slowly release and roll up. Make your way onto all fours or Bharmanasana, tabletop pose. Knees and hips aligned, wrists and shoulders aligned as we start arching and rounding in Marjariyasana. And that's the cat. Now back to that awareness of the breath. It's not that we need to guide the breath here, and from that guidance of the breath we guide the movement accordingly. We can if we want to, but if we do, we make sure it's still a very comfortable, natural breath. Now tuck your toes under and raise the knees off the ground. Arch and hold that arch. If it gets too much, the knees just come down. And you also want to make sure that you're not sinking into your shoulders. So keep your shoulder blades far apart. And then this one will be easier to keep the shoulder blades far apart. Still knees off the ground as we round the back and drop the head. And keep that rounded shape as well. again, allowing yourself to release the knees to the ground whenever you need to. And then, now the knees come down. We raise the right arm and stretch out to the right side. Breathe into the rib cage. And on exhale, the right arm goes over to the left side, and the left arm might go behind you. Knees both on the ground, unless you have a favorite version that you want to go into. I sometimes think in a live class, in person or online, people do what you ask them to do a little bit more because they feel like, well, everyone else is doing this, especially when lots of people are in the same room together. Here, the nice thing is no one watches you, no one can see what you're doing. So you have, I think, much more freedom to actually do what you really want to do. Find that posture where you're super comfortable in. And one option here for the end is raising that left leg high and keeping it up there. Just an option, doesn't mean you have to go for it. And release. Slowly coming back into Padmanasana. Round your back, maybe it'll feel nice to move the hips from side to side. And then from here, other side. So raise that left arm and take it nice and high. And just allow yourself a little bit of time to feel your breath here. And slowly send that left arm to the right side and raise your right arm, maybe dropping it behind you. The more popular thing here to do is to just bring that right hand somewhere onto the back, but I quite like this reaching away there and maybe hovering, and sometimes the hand can even touch the ground. That obviously completely depends on your body. But I think it's quite nice. It's worth exploring. Now straighten the right leg and raise it. If you want to, you can stay exactly where you were before, of course. Keep breathing. And then release and make your way back into tabletop pose. Some release here if you need it. And then we move into our wrists, just drawing circles around the wrists and changing the direction of the circles. Round your back, move a little bit more into the hips if you want. And then from here, tuck your toes under and press your hips all the way up. Bend your legs and straighten. Bend your legs and straighten so that the knees come all the way towards the chest there. And straighten all the way, and do a few more like that. So getting our hamstrings ready for all the fun that is to come. And then hold with the legs bent. Still pressing the hips up into the back. And then straighten again and hold here. And while there's a lot to be said for moving through postures quickly, especially if you're combining with a certain breath and that awareness that always needs to be there, I think this holding of postures is really just wonderful. Come forwards into a plank and hold that plank. Since I've just talked about holding of postures, it just gives us the opportunity to really connect with our body. There's no place to escape. We are right here. We feel the body. Obviously, if things get too much here, you drop the knees to the ground, change the posture if needed, but be there with your body to be able to say, okay, now is the time that I need to change something. That way you know, because you're aware, you're here, and there's an intention behind this posture. And the breath is still with us, and we're here to make sure that we're aware of it. Slowly open up to the right side, sending the right arm to the front, maybe bringing both feet on top of each other, and deepening by trying to sort of bring the fingertips down towards the ground. Nice long breaths. move over to the other side. Now use this time in the posture to really feel the breath and be with the breath. You're here in your body, and everything you feel is what you're in control of. And anything that doesn't feel right can change. Going into Ashtanga Namaskar from here. Ashtanga 8 Namaskar, of course. The greeting, hello, 8-part salute, or 8 parts of the body touching the ground. So obviously the chest is considered one part rather than two. We come from here into another back bend, into the cobra or Bhujangasana. It's that B sound, Bhujanga, king of cobras, actually. Make sure that you still have the feeling of space in your neck. And same here as we're sending the arms away from us to the back, palms open, and the legs up. Try to see how different this posture feels when you're squeezing the glutes and when you're not. And slowly release into a deeper version of Bhujangasana. I'm doing a lot of back bends with you, aren't I? I wonder if that was a subconscious continuation of the night before. So obviously the deeper you go, the higher the chin can come as well. It needs to make sense for the whole of the spine. So always see your whole body as one thing, where everything is based on what other parts of the body do. Make your way into Parvatasana or mountain pose or downward dog. And then raise your right leg and point it to the ceiling. You may flex the foot and drop the heel to the buttocks. See what's more comfortable for you. And hold wherever you want to. Taking care not to let the shoulders come further and further forwards. Keep gently pressing them to the back and up. And get comfortable with holding, with just being in the pose rather than thinking of the next thing we're going into. Step the right foot to the front, drop your left knee to the ground, and raise the arms coming into Anjaneyasana. Eyes could close, could stay open, we could look up, we could look to the front. And then a little option here to deepen, so you'll see the top of the foot, the back foot on the ground. You could raise your knee off the ground, really deepening. Just giving that a try maybe if you wanted to, but also making that wise decision of not doing more of that if it's not for you. Hands down, we tuck our toes under and raise the right arm to twist. And feel your breath. That's why we're here. We could deepen. We don't have to. So you could stay exactly where you are, or deepen a little bit here. Release and raise the arms. This is a very, very deep version of the equestrian pose, or Ashra Sanchalanasana, Ashra the horse, obviously. Well, I'm saying obviously, it's not that obvious. But if you do need to raise your hips more, and the same goes for as we're opening up into Warrior 2, feel free to raise the hips higher. Obviously, this is a deeper version of our Virabhadrasana. And then into Reverse Warrior. And same thing, quite deep. We're quite low here because we started in that different position rather than starting from coming into the warrior like, as we normally do. And then into an extended side angle from here. Hand on the ground is just one of many options. You could bind here, or you could stay exactly where you are. And maybe your right arm is on the right leg rather than further down. And release, hands on the inside of the leg. We drop our left leg, we drop our forearms and the head. And the right foot can walk further out, the right knee can push out. And we let our right hip get heavy. Again, another way that we can deepen, right arm under the right leg, and maybe bringing the hands together behind you. And again, just because something is an option, just because I'm showing it, doesn't mean we have to go for it. This doesn't make our practice perfect. It's not about that at all. But I know you know that. Come into child's pose. And enjoy that moment of just being in Balasana, letting your shoulders and your arms get heavy. Just giving the legs a little well-deserved rest. And then slowly come back up into mountain or downward dog. And raise your left leg. You're going to keep that leg high. We could flex the foot and drop the heel, but if for whatever reason you're more comfortable with just pointing the toes towards the ceiling, then absolutely go for that. And bringing your awareness to the shoulders, keeping them strong, and keeping the arms long, and that weight the same in hands and shoulders. Left foot comes forwards and we sink down, dropping the right knee to the ground and untucking the toes as we slowly raise our arms and lengthen. Stay and breathe and find your perfect variation of Anjaneyasana. May include having the eyes closed. And release to tuck the right toes under and raise the knee. So leg straight, left arm up. And we turn our chin towards the left shoulder if that feels appropriate for us. There's so many different options. And without seeing you and how deep you're going, it would be ridiculous of me to say this is where your chin should go. So it really depends on the twist as a whole. And again, we could deepen, but we obviously don't have to. Deepening a posture sometimes just means staying in it. That in itself is deepening. Of course, if your body wants more, then there it is as an option. Hands down. And the hips stay low unless you need to raise them higher. Of course, that's fine. Stepping the right foot further forwards before the arms go up and we come into Ashwa Sanchalanasana. The galloping horse, the horse in motion, more in motion, Sanchal. And open up into Warrior Two, taking yourself further up if you need to. So it's a much deeper version here, or has the potential to be, because we came from quite low. And we take ourselves into reverse warrior. Again, how deep we sink is really up to us. And into Utthita Parsva Konasana, with the top arm doing what it wants, with the bottom arm as well. It's basically all up to you. Find where you're comfortable and stay there. Could mean you're binding. But if that somehow means that your top shoulder is coming further forwards and the alignment that you wanted isn't there anymore, then forget about even trying a bind. It should feel good. It should help you open up. Release and into Uttan Prishthasana. Yeah, so that right leg can already come onto the ground. I don't know why. I kept it up just for a moment. And here on this side, you can see, obviously you can see the other side, but we want to keep dropping that left hip. And of course here we also have the option of deepening, of bringing the hands together behind us. Incidentally, it's not necessarily the forehead that needs to be on the ground. It could be your chin as well, but that only becomes appropriate for you when the chest is low enough for that to feel good in your body. So make your way into child's pose again. And really be comfortable. Wiggle a little bit if you want, just like I did. Only if you want to. And then just heaviness in the body. And feel whatever is going on. It's just about awareness. And then while we're here and very relaxed and heavy in the body, let's do a little round of Bhramari Pranayama or the humming bee. Breathe in, forehead heavy, and hum out. And then slowly come out of your child's pose and make your way into this triangle-shaped mountain downward dog. Hold and stay and feel your body and keep everything as is, apart from that right leg going up and the toes point towards the ceiling. And get long, or if you prefer, flex your foot and drop the heel to the buttocks. We bring the knee towards the dropped head and hold here. You want the hips to be low enough and you want to press forwards enough. Now step that right foot in between the hands and left heel comes to the ground. We make our way into our first of the warriors of that avatar of Shiva that takes revenge. And we might close the eyes. And while that is a posture of not just strength but anger as well, we want to counter that with our breath. So really connecting with the breath and letting the breath calm down so that the posture is calm and the mind can be calm. So that's what's meant when we talk about yoga, Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yoga is the stilling of mental fluctuations. Posture's incidental. It can be what we're choosing to find our way towards mental stillness for, but it could be anything else as well. Not anything else. Some things will calm you and make you mentally still, but they may not be yoga. Very gently press that left hip to the front. As always, it's really not about the perfect alignment of the hips, but that feeling in your body and what is possible for your body and what is comfortable for your body. And it's time for us to get bored as well and then overcome that boredom. Something very healthy for the brain to be bored. Interlock the hands behind you so you're floating the arms down, gently raising the head and pressing the chest forwards, and then letting yourself just drop forwards and all the way down, or maybe just a little bit forwards. And still as before, although there's different versions here as well, press your left hip to the front as you did in your Virbhadra Asana. And the hands get heavy towards the ground, towards the front, depending on how deep you are here. So just up and over. And you want to feel heaviness in the upper body and the relaxation in the spine. Not that Warrior One should have given you that feeling of compression in the spine in any way. It's more that length in Warrior One. Or really in all of your warriors. 1, 2, 3. We release and come up. Straighten the right leg and hands onto the hips or anywhere else. Hip crease will help you feel how you're tipping forwards from the hip as you come down into Parsvottanasana. But of course you could interlock the hands as you did in your humble warrior, non-traditional. You could reach for that back leg. And here it's obviously easy to see. So your right arm is on the outside of the right leg. And same hip action as in the other two postures we just did. And absolutely make sure that you don't go too deep. Hold where it's comfortable enough to hold. Where the posture as such doesn't change your breath, but also where you make sure that you can stay for longer. So feel that level of comfort. Don't think, I can stay here for a second and I hope she's not going to make us hold for longer. Because I'm making you hold for longer. So just make sure that you come into that appropriate posture for you. That may just be having the hands on the right leg rather than around the left. Now slowly come to the front again and into Parivrit Trikonasana. our revolved triangle with that right arm going up. And again, just as before, that left hip is pressing forwards, the right hip is pressing back. You can absolutely stay here. There's no need to change anything at all. But I thought I'd just give that option of deepening if you wanted to, taking care to walk that back foot further forwards if you need to for that bind. Yeah, maybe your bind is, too deep. But if you want to deepen, you can always start by just bringing that left arm a little bit further to the inside of the right heel, or even to the outside of it. So that's sort of the middle ground. Is that the right word here? Release, and dropping that left knee to the ground, you push your right knee out and maybe reach for your left foot with the right hand as you twist. And if that's not for you, just forget about the leg and just focus on gently twisting. You could come onto your forearm here as well. You don't have to be on the hand. And as I've said before in many other videos, I'm sure, make everything adjust here to where you are elsewhere. So if your neck is straining too much, then the neck just needs to relax a little bit. It's probably because you're not twisting enough in order for the chin to come to the shoulder or for you to look to the back. It's completely unnecessary to do that if it's not right, given on what the rest of the body is doing. And equally, if we feel that it's uncomfortable to be on the outer edge of the right foot, then why would we do that? Just keep the foot on the ground. And it doesn't mean you can't push the knee out. But for now, make your way into child's pose. And again, feel that heaviness in the body. I'll do another round of Bhramari Pranayama if you want. Lovely way to release and relax us. And once again, we make our way into Pardvatasana. Long in the arms, spine, legs. And on an inhale, we raise the left leg. Again, making sure the shoulders don't press to the front. We might flex the foot, but we don't have to. I should have given that as an option on the other side, shouldn't I? It doesn't matter. It is a live class. It isn't, but I refuse to edit. So you do you. Leg can be straight, leg can be bent. And we know all the good things that are coming our way. So we just hold here for a little moment longer and then bring the knee towards the dropped head. Again, taking care to keep space between the shoulder blades and letting the hips not drop, but also not keeping them too high. Just bring them forwards, and that should solve it, just like a plank. And from here, did I hold as long on the other side? I hope so. Step that foot between the hands and raise the arms and torso to come into Virabhadra Asana. Virabhadra Asana. And again, you can close the eyes. It may be possible on one side and not the other. That's how different sides are. How our body is also different every day. So it's always worth trying things that may not have worked so well one day, but also never expecting things to work a certain way, like work really well when they normally do, because we're different all the time. And that's a good thing. It makes life very interesting, doesn't it? We stay, we push that right hip to the front. And gently, of course, left hip to the back. You can always sink deeper into your left leg, but the idea is really find a posture that works for you, a variation of this asana. And staying where you are, to observe the breath, to connect with the breath, to learn from it what else is going on in the body. And then maybe with the eyes closed, maybe with the eyes open, float the arms down, interlock the hands, and take your torso forwards and down. Yeah, and we get comfortable here. We might be lower, we might be higher, we might not even have looked at what I'm doing because we've got the eyes closed, and that's brilliant too. Keep the hips that same way as before. So throughout this whole sequence, and every asana and every longer held asana that we are in here, until we go into child's pose on the other side. We literally are doing the same with the hips. Gentle push of the right hip to the front and the left hip to the back. So I hope you like that, because it's going to feature again and again. Now on this side I'm helpfully showing the slightly more gentle variation of the pyramid, but of course you can reach for your back leg rather than bring the hands onto the front leg. Really up to you. Try not to just go for just dropping the torso down, trying to get the head as close to the leg as possible. That's not the idea here. We want to also go for distance. We want length in the spine. And of course we are bending a little bit into, well, bending is the wrong word, we're rounding a little bit forwards here. That's completely fine. But do it in equal measures. Don't just kind of think, okay, I'm going to just drop the chin towards that thigh, or I want to reach the knee. It doesn't matter where you get to. And from here into our revolved triangle, with that right heel still firmly on the ground, and an adjustment of the neck if necessary. So there's no right or wrong. And the right hand could go a little bit further in towards you if you wanted. And as I said on the other side as well, we can stay or we can deepen. And staying itself is a form of deepening. We must not forget that. Keep breathing gently. No force. And release. Dropping the right knee to the ground. Pressing the left knee out. Maybe also walking that left foot out a little bit more. And then maybe going for that bind here. Left hand to right foot. Although that may be an acquired taste. And what we don't want here to is to grab hold of the right foot just for the sake of it. But notice that as we do that, the hips are coming up. That's obviously not the idea. Just a little extra here for your hip and quad in particular, of course. We don't want to forget that we're doing this to deepen into that left hip as well. Right hip will find it very easy to drop down. The left hip is the one we want to focus on, so that gets heavy. And then we release and we come, sorry, I promised you a child's pose. I did think when I said it, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Step to the front instead and into Malasana, where we're raising the head and lengthening our spine, our back. It's growing a little bit taller. Keep allowing the hips to be heavy. And the elbows could gently push the knees out. Actually, you could hold in Malasana. I had other ideas for you. But you don't have to always do as I say. But if you want to, so I needed to create a little bit more space, but maybe just play around with Bakasana and Kakasana a little bit. So with crane or crow. And maybe don't hold for too long, just test out how much you want to bend the arms, where it becomes easier. Of course, if the arms are completely straight, that's harder. If the arms are slightly more bent, or I should have shown that as well actually, forearms can be on the ground and you can turn your head to one side and take your time coming back into Malasana. And then from here, raise your heels, hands to the knees. We now raise the arms and push ourselves gently up into Utkat Konasana. So hips not much further up than the knees, and they press to the front as the knees go to the back. So trying not to let the torso come forwards, shoulders above the hips, and release. And then maybe just holding on to at the ankles or legs, pulling yourself a little bit closer. You might feel like moving into the hips a little bit or something, also fine. Just let yourself relax a little bit here. We have done quite enough. Or have we? No, I'm promising you a meditation to end all of these shenanigans. back into Malasana, and then from here into a low boat. Again, we want to raise the head a little bit more. And then release your torso, keep the legs over the ground. Could be lower than mine, could be higher. Raise them maybe to around 45 degrees. Am I good at this? Is this 45 degrees? Now up to 60 degrees. I think that'll do. And to 90 degrees. And from here, hardly visible, we're going to raise the buttocks off the ground, but keep the toes above the hips. So we can see that little difference. And then hands to the hips, and we push them up. Crucially, not in Sarvangasana yet. This is something you should still feel in the core. And then from here all the way up. And this is where the hands could stay. Maybe yours weren't there in the first place. You could interlock the hands behind your back. I'm a step ahead of myself. Other options that I'm not actually quite sure whether I'm showing or not are arms to the sides of the head or arms up towards the ceiling, so that it's really only the shoulders holding you. And the main concern, yes, you guessed right, is your breath. You might follow me here, knees to the forehead, arms maybe wrapping around the legs. Again, not necessary. You might decide to just stay in Sarvangasana. Or you might have decided that this isn't for you, for whatever reason. Many reasons for that. The jury's still out on that in terms of studies, whether or not you should be doing this when you have your period. So, you know, I think sometimes science has to catch up with what yogic scriptures are saying. But then there's also other reasons, cultural reasons, that say don't do this when you're on your period. Good. So one way that I've just shown to come into Setu Bandhasana is like that, but obviously feel free to roll down and then bring the feet to the ground, and you can bend your legs here as well. This is of course a little bit more challenging to straighten them here all the way, but it's an option. And we come down, and we may or may not decide to come into that full Setu Bandha Sarvangasana. Again, we could straighten the legs here. Also, little tip, I don't know if I ever said that, but this yoga towel that I'm using actually makes the practice much, much deeper, much harder, because it doesn't hold you. It doesn't have that grip in the way that a mat has. It's actually quite slippery, but that means you're not relying on anything other than your body to holding you in place. And that's basically how I learned without a yoga mat. Come down, or you may not have been in Setu Bandha Sarvangasana, so here's that option of dropping the head and raising the chest. You could raise your arms and legs. Quite deep this, and maybe not for you. You can just decide to relax and enjoy with the feet on the ground, the hands underneath the buttocks. And then I would suggest a little rounding of the back, and we come up and round a little more in Paschimottanasana, that stretch of the west. Hold on. Is it the stretch of the west? I'm now rethinking. I'll put it in the comments if it's not the case. So the back of the body. No, I think I am right. So the left hand side is north, and then the front is east. Right hand side south. So the back is west. And now up here into an upward plank. It doesn't really matter where the fingertips are going. That needs to work for you. So everyone is different. Just make sure it's comfortable. And then soles of the feet together, knees drop, and we come forwards. Placing the importance on rounding the back rather than pulling the feet in. But you can, because we're having a little bit of time here, play around with that and go from one variation to the other, which is in fact what I am going to do in a moment. Sometimes hands underneath the legs may be helpful. Sometimes it may feel constricting. And the breath is still with us. Whether or not we're aware of it, it's always there. Isn't that nice? And we'll roll up through the spine. And finally make our way onto the back, hug the right knee in, and come into a twist. Hold that for a few long breaths. You may want to guide them. Sometimes that's nice, isn't it? Just slowing it down, guiding it. I think for me the importance of that basic yogic breath is because fewer people talk about it, I suppose. We could change what we're doing here in that twist. Essentially wanting to become more comfortable. If what you did before was a pressing down, a deeper twist to really feel release and relaxation after your body is so warm, then now this is the level of comfort that allows us to really let go and be able to say, I could stay here for so much longer than we actually do. And yeah, I just want to make sure that people know we don't always have to guide the breath. That deep breaths are often perceived as those that are actually strong breaths, the ones that stress our system. Release and round your back. You may not need to raise your head, but that's an option. And then we set up for the other side. So first going slightly deeper with that left knee closer towards the chest. And the right leg is just relaxed and long on the ground. We may hold on, we may pull, we may push. I've lost the ability to speak. And so nothing wrong with doing with the breath what we're intending to do with the breath. But that means there has to be this intention. And now I'm going into that slightly more relaxed twist that we're holding for a little while longer. Hands could be on the rib cage and stomach in order for you to follow the breath. And yeah, we need to know what the outcome is. Like, what do we do with a really strong in-breath? Like, it can focus us, can be great, but too much of that, and we're going to stress our body. So know what it is you're doing, know what it is that very sweet and soft breaths do, and that is inspire calmness and relaxation in the body. Any stress hormones can metabolize if we just breathe in the proper way. Release, and maybe come with me into that much deeper stretch for the back, with the feet going towards the back. Not quite Halasana, but deeper than just Pavan Muktasana. Where you are is good. No need to do what I'm doing. And then from here, any last movements that you want to get out of your system before you become super, super comfortable in Shavasana, or the corpse pose. And lots and lots of things to say about the corpse pose. For one, yes, it's because the idea is that we're becoming dead weight. Actually, there's another variation of the corpse pose in which your heels and your head are being held by blocks, so that they're higher than the rest of the body. And it is the strength of your body that holds you up in a sort of more rigor mortis type variation of the corpse. And there we are talking about really what that means, the corpse. It's also a reminder for us that we're not going to be here forever in this body, but at the same time it also tells that story or symbolism of Shiva and Shakti, these energy forces rather than just male and female, god and goddess, that work together, and only together can they exist. So Shiva has the spirit, the formless ghost that needs Shakti and her form to be in this world, to communicate, and she needs him just as much. So it's not one thing that's better than the other, but that is that discussion of what we need, and the answer really is we need both. And someone said to me today, actually, is that also yin and yang? It would be a good comparison, because we need yin and we need yang. So we need the sun and we need the moon. Too much of the sun and we'll burn, too much of the moon and we'll freeze. So it is that balance, but a little bit different as well, because with Shiva and Shakti, we talk about mind and matter. We talk about energies that don't go away. And that's laws of thermodynamics as well, about energies of not just us as human beings or as animals, but everything, right? Everything holds energy. And Shavasana is about recognizing that as we're breathing in and out and we're observing the breath as it goes in and spreads through our body and everything that means. So not just the breath as that first thing, but all the energy that it sparks, the beating of the heart, the moving of blood through your whole body, all of that together makes up what we are, but connects us to the energy around us. Because if there was no air, just like Vayu when he was the wind god, breathing in, sucking out all the air from the world because he was so angry at the gods for killing his son, for killing Anjani or Hanuman, or who then became Hanuman. We can't survive without that air. We're nothing without that. We just spend time listening to the breath. Very difficult thing for us to do, listening without guiding. Even if we don't think we're trying to make it better. Sometimes just observing it makes us think we're not breathing properly, we're not getting enough air. But we are, and we're just here to observe the gentleness of the breath. A lovely mantra that I've taken from the Vietnamese Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh. He said it differently, so I've changed it around a little bit. As you're breathing in, just say to yourself, I'm aware of the breath going into the body. And as you're breathing out, I'm aware of the breath leaving the body. So with that full awareness that you're not making that breath happen, it's not your conscious mind, it's a process in the body that will happen when you're asleep. It will just happen and keep happening. And you are here to observe that, as if you were taking your mind out of this body, hovering somewhere over this whole physical experience and observing what is going on. And every in-breath and every out-breath is gentle and light and heavy and happens just by itself. And then you might gently start guiding your breath, only if you want to. Just to feel that difference between us observing the breath and guiding. You might decide to breathe in for the count of 3 and out for the count of 5 or 6. It may feel nice, it may not be your thing. It's completely up to you. The eyelids stay heavy and our body stays heavy. As we just either guide the breath or let it come and go. Just spending time with that energy of the breath. Something we don't have time for normally. And a few more moments in Shavasana. Then we stretch the arms out, and we might wake ourselves up by bringing the feet to the ground and dropping the knees from side to side. But there's no right way to do this. Just move into your body in a way that works for you, and then come onto the right side of the body and lie here, observing the breath still as you come up. Little movements into the body, waking yourself up, stretching out, reach the arms up high and open the eyes, take a breath in and exhale, hands to the heart center. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you soon.